My name is Paige Shue, PDGA number 33833, professional disc golfer, and 2018 world champion. We're here to relive one of the best moments of my life, the world championships in 2018 out at Smugglers Notch. We're back this year in 2023, so what a better time than now to look back and really reflect on the successes I had and what it means to me now 5 years later. Just go for it.
Go for it. Paige Shue.
Yay.
Okay, I had a 5-stroke lead.
Let's go, Paige.
First tee, final round, emotions and feelings and whatnot.
I mean, nerves. Obviously, I was so nervous. I remember waking up that morning and thinking, what do I want to wear while I win Worlds? You know, trying to okay, I have a 5-stroke lead. I was just trying to keep myself hyped. But you never know. Actually, I totally forgot. The round before, I think Paige Pierce had beaten me by 6 or 7 strokes. So she played a really good second to last round to kind of bring herself closer to me. And so I'm like, well, dang, if she beat me by 7 strokes that round, who knows what can happen this round. So I was confident, but I totally forgot that was in my head. And so we're about to see on my first tee shot, I kind of yanked it a little bit, and I totally thought I sent it OB, but.
So she just really hasn't messed up that much.
Yeah, dude, I thought that was OB.
She's on her tee shot a little bit wide here.
I remember coming into hole 2, this hole, it's so in your face, but I don't think I hit the gap once. And so when I missed the gap this round, I was like, oh man, that sucks. Crap, it's bogey at best. But then I think Paige Pierce, who is my closest competitor, she then also hit early. So I was like, oh, okay, we're good. That's kind of how you have to think. I mean, it's kind of match play. What are they doing?
Playing safe and going out of bounds, you can just really rip one up.
Hole 4 was the first hole I was really nervous about because there's so much OB. And I feel like this green is always windy. But my tee shot ended up being perfect. And it put me in a really great spot. And I had a pretty hard tester putt we're about to see. And I remember walking up to that putt so freaking nervous. Well, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, at least it's for birdie. So if you par, it's fine. But this would be a good, it'll give you a good feel of how the round's going to be. Here's a tester moment where, this could really drive it home that you want to win this tournament. And so, yeah, I stepped up to this putt, super nervous. It's crazy. This whole round I was nervous, but shots were working. It's just when you play that much, it just seems like no matter what you think, as long as you got the repetition down, it works. But yeah, once I made that putt, I was like, oh, heck yeah. Let's go. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be making those putts. I had a lot of tester putts this round. And I think even that round they were saying I had 100% C1X, even though I don't think C1X existed at the time. But I made all my putts this final round, and I think that was the big difference.
With a putter?
Yes, the next hole is this hole 6. I threw such a bad shot.
You just hit a prove it putt to yourself on one that you knew you were nervous going into it.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And then woods.
I know, dude. I'm like, what are you doing? My next shot, which I was just trying to lay up to get the easy bogey, best case scenario, I can get a bogey. So just minimize damage. That's what I kept telling myself this whole round, anytime I did have a mess up. And there was a tailwind, and I threw it so short. And Paige Pierce was parked for birdie. She threw a forehand, and she was getting a birdie. So I'm like, dang, it's going to be at least a 2-stroke swing.
Her power is...
So this is hole 7, the one where I gained a bunch of strokes on everybody. Kind of going down the fairway with so much OB. I just would rip something overstable flat on the right side and just let it fade every time. And that's how I kept it in bounds. And it was crazy seeing my competitors try to hyzer flip and add all these technical angles. And I just was like, just I want to be in bounds.
She's looking at her 5.
This putt I was running and I really wanted to make it. But I think my body just would not let me because everyone was getting at least a bogey, I think. So I knew I was going to gain strokes anyway. And my body just was like, nope. But it was a circle 2 putt, so I wasn't too worried about it. Just knowing what this round meant, what this tournament meant, it's easy to block out pretty much everything else. Even now, today, when I have a tournament, I might be feeling a little weak or a little tired or a slight headache. But once the round starts, it's crazy. Your focus is on the shots, on the holes, and you kind of forget everything else. Chasing your dreams will give you a lot of energy, especially when they're right there. Just 9 more holes, just keep going.
Yeah. And she gets it. High chains.
Yeah, Paige had carded a birdie.
The only birdie in the women's
but
hole. Oh,
I had 6 strokes. So I'm like,
Yeah, the way that slope keeps
This hole 9, I shanked this drive. I still was playing for par, but I super early released it with a lot of hyzer, and I was like an inch away from OB.
Some cool things about these holes.
This hole, oh, I loved this hole. This was perfect. I was throwing Judges at the time. My favorite throwing putter, and this hole was like so perfect for it. Coming into this hole, after losing 2 strokes back to back to Paige, coming into this one, I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know what your disc is supposed to do on this hole. Hole 11, I think, was also pretty important kind of throughout the round because Paige and I had both thrown into a good spot, and there's lots of OB down below. And it's just a tricky hole. It's a really hard hole. So when I threw this approach, it actually, it looked perfect, but after watching coverage, I ended up hitting a tree and it kicked me perfect. So as I walked up during the round, I'm like, oh yeah, I threw that perfect. But she ended up throwing it out of bounds.
Yeah, it actually kicks
And so, yeah,
no trouble.
that I was like, at this point, I felt pretty good. I was like, no way you lose this. Yeah, hole 12, I always played for par. I mean, it was pretty long, so my plan was to go putter, 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 and then make your par. And I threw my approach, and I'm like barely inside the circle. And it's, you know, slightly elevated, and I remember like, oh crap, dude. Come on, like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, just like make it easy. Why is it so difficult? So I had a circle's edge putt for my par, and Paige had a circle 2 putt for birdie. She ended up airballing low and missed it, but she was inside circle for her comebacker. And then I stepped up to this putt, and it was a tailwind, and I remember like put it high and hard, and I made it. And I remember after making that, I was like, I'm gonna win. I felt like after this hole, I was like, no way I don't win. And then Paige Pierce ended up missing her comebacker, so I ended up getting a stroke on her. And so that, yeah, I was like, no way I lose at this point. Like I'm steady, I'm playing my game, and it's winning. It's winning. It's enough to win at this point. Now this hole is when I really started to like play strategically. It's hole 14. I didn't throw a super great tee shot, and I thought about running it, but I wanted to see where Paige landed. So Paige landed a little wide, and she had a closer putt for birdie, but it was a tester. So I was talking to my mom, and I'm like, should I run this or should I lay it up? And my mom's like, well, you know, you could miss and roll down that hill. Like, that happens a lot. Previous round, somebody like threw a shot and it ended up standing up and rolling out of bounds. So it's like, you know, if you lose 1 stroke to her, it's better than losing 2 or 3 if you happen to roll. And I'm like, okay, you're right. So then I laid that one up, and then Paige ended up missing anyway. So I remember this is really when I was like, okay, match play. Just don't let them get a lot of strokes on you. This 15, I was the most nervous on because it's super wooded. It's like the most wooded course. Doubles and triples could happen so easily if you get off the fairway. Super shaky, but I ended up hitting the line pretty well, you know. Just that seemed like the theme this whole round. Like, no matter how nervous I was, for the most part, I was executing. No matter what's going through your head, you still have to physically throw the shot. It doesn't matter the situation or the circumstance. So I remember that particular disc, that particular angle was like my favorite way to throw that disc. It was the most confident way for me to throw that disc and to hit that line with. So like I said, just all around, just choosing what I feel most confident in and what I enjoy throwing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, again, everyone bogeyed at least. I think Paige doubled. And so I was still getting strokes. After this hole, I kind of knew it. So I hit an ace earlier last year in 2022. I don't know if y'all saw my Winthrop ace. Dude, like, that was just a rush of emotion so fast and so instant. So it was like crazy, and I was celebrating like crazy. But for here, you know, I already had a few holes, and I kind of always felt like I knew I was going to win, especially at this point. So as I was finishing out my round, I was feeling all these emotions, but I couldn't really show them yet because I still had so much golf. And so by the end of it, you know, obviously I was crazy ecstatic. But when it's kind of slow and drawn out, it just feels a little bit different. But at this point, literally, I told myself after this hole, if you can survive hole 15, you can probably win the tournament. Mm-hmm. So I have, what is this? Like a 9-stroke lead right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, boy, 9.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I threw the next tee shot 16 perfect. And then freaking the second shot, if you even look, I'm just trying to play it safe. Like, I have great footing, so I'm like, all right, you know, in my head, I'm playing for par anyway. Just get over that OB. And I threw a tick low, and you see someone, like, had a random stack of rocks. Someone stacked rocks in the middle of that OB, and my disc hit it and kept me from going in bounds. And I was so pissed. Obviously, it didn't matter. I'm like, why is there a stack of rocks like in the middle of this OB? Like if I didn't hit those, I would be in bounds. So I remember feeling really disappointed at that.
But at this point, it's you now.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I made the putt. I was so nervous, like literally so nervous, and it went in. And that's I just feel like the reps and all the practice I put in, it just paid off. Just was easy to replicate. I actually had a little bit of a tester, and I was wondering like, should I lay this up? But it was so short, like just enough to where I would feel lame laying it up. So I ran it. And Robert McCall, I think, was even like, I don't know, do you think he thought I should have laid it up, but it was so close. Yes, and then the tee shot on 18, I just like sent it. It was so nice. Everyone was hugging me at the top of the tee pad, like my family, Jeremy Rusko, Robert McCall, Zach Melton was walking with us, like all my friends and family that could be there and watch. They were all standing there, and everyone just hugged me, and I just started to cry, and like I just knew, like, no way I can blow a 8-stroke lead on one hole, like no way, right? No way. So just I remember hugging everybody and thinking like, wow, dude, I'm one hole away from winning a world title.
You had made a decision earlier in the year.
Yeah, to like pursue it full time. I've been playing since I was 10, and I always had school or other sports. I played a little bit of other sports growing up, but it was always disc golf, and so. Finally, I've always been like, what would it be like to give my all into disc golf? And I planned on getting my degree. I always wanted a degree. I knew that. But I did plan on competing full time at some point in my life. I just didn't know when that would be because when you put your whole life into it, you don't know what the outcome could be. And so this was literally the first time. Didn't have to worry about school. It was, it's made enough money, saved up enough money to where I wasn't super worried financially. I was just like, focus on disc golf, like practice disc golf, eat well, like plan, take it as serious as you can. All this years you've put into it up to this point, help with that too, just giving it my all. And so, yeah, on this tee pad, it hit pretty hard. And I was like, oh, don't cry. And I actually landed in such a perfect spot to go for the birdie. This is like one of the things I regret the most was this approach. It was literally so easy, just a straight putter shot, get up and down for a birdie. And I end up choking, and I go OB and lay up, and Paige got 2 strokes on me on the hole. So I ended up winning Worlds by 6. But if I would have like freaking played decent and just got up and down, it would have been 8 strokes, which would have been like obviously that much better and that much more historic. Because afterwards they interviewed me and they were like, the last time someone won by 6, it was like Valerie Jenkins in 2007 or something like that. And it was like a really big win at the time. But I'm like, dang. 8 strokes would have been so insane, like to win by 8. That's huge. And now, like, I think Kristen last year won by 8, and it's like that. It's funny. I literally, like, the one shot I think about this whole freaking tournament is this approach that just goes right OB. Looking back, like, I wish I could get that upshot back because 6 is obviously good, but 8 would have just been that much better, but it's fine. Anyways, yeah, I remember thinking, walking up to my last putt, like, how should I celebrate? What do I do? I really didn't think about the pictures being taken or anything, but I was like, all right, whatever naturally happens, just go tap in your putt. And I tapped in, and I reached down to grab my mini. I don't know why I did that, because my mom was like, why didn't you celebrate automatically? Why'd you grab your mini? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I was just going through the motions. So I tapped in, I grabbed my mini, and then like, boom, it hit. And so then that's when I did my little fluttery. I feel like it's a pretty iconic picture. Like oh man, it was so amazing. Tapping in.
Press play, and I want you to walk me through the hug. The family hug. Who else gets that?
I know. A lot of, I don't know. Now that I have a daughter, it kind of helps me put into perspective like what it really means. And my parents were living this dream with me, and I've dreamed of being a world champion ever since. I knew about disc golf. I remember Valerie at the time when she won her 3rd Worlds in a row in 2009 with Avery Jenkins also winning. Like, it was the coolest thing ever. It was the first time I'd been to a Worlds, and I remember meeting her, and I was like, I want to be a world champion one day. And she was obviously very encouraging and so sweet to a little 10, 11, 12-year-old girl. But yeah, like, it's crazy having your dreams come true. I know it doesn't happen for a lot of people, so I don't take it for granted. And it's cool. And so it's my parents' dream too. And yeah, I remember the screeching sound my mom made. It almost didn't sound human. She was like, just going insane. And my dad, I think he had just had knee surgery or something recently, so he was kind of like trying to hobble over and like hug us at the same time. But yeah, this hug, I just was crying so hard. And just to have them there, and it's just so picture perfect. Like you can't plan it any better. And to this day, we talk about how awesome it was and how it was such a life-changing moment. And you know, the World Championships being here again, it's like another opportunity to showcase, you know, my skills and how I've developed as a player. I mean, it's been 5 years, so the game has changed, a lot more competitors, and I myself am different, you know, been through a lot of life in the last 5 years. I'm excited to be back, and it's fun to reminisce and be like, okay, I did what it took to be a world champion, and I beat the best of the best, and it was by a lot. And, you know, it's not like it was out of nowhere. I had slowly been a top player throughout the whole season, half the season when I started playing, you know, so I knew it wasn't like a fluke. But I loved it. I love reminiscing. I love appreciating the success I had, but I'm also ready to look forward, see what I can do, play again, and try to give it another stab, I guess. I'm looking forward to it. You know, no matter the results, it's a dream to come back here and do it all again.